Greetings all and welcome back to Unrepentant Geeking, the show where a geek can be a geek. As always, I am your host, Shaun, and I told you guys I was going to be trying to do more episodes, trying to pick back up servers, trying to get back into the full swing of things, hopefully do more than just 2 episodes a month. We're going to see how that goes, and part of that is just me doing smaller, just more quicker things and not worrying about doing any video, so that you're just going to see a static image for that. If you want to see video for this episode, it's all over there up on the internet. I'm just here to talk, you're just here to listen, and hopefully that'll work for an episode like this. And so what is this episode about? Well, I'm going to talk about the Nintendo Switch. As of this recording, a couple nights ago, Nintendo finally did the big reveal for the Switch. Now, this wasn't technically the announcement. They'd done an announcement video back in 2016. But this was where we actually got the details for the first time. Real hard details on the Switch, on what we can expect, on the release date, on the price, on the launch library, on a host of different things. And yeah, I'm a big video game person, and part of what I'm looking to do in 2017 is step back up and do more video game coverage. I've got coming next week, hopefully, a video game review, in fact, of an ahead of the release of the game. I'll just go ahead and say it's Yakuza 0. Yeah, I got a review code, an early review code for Yakuza 0, so I'm playing through it right now. And I'm definitely going to be doing a review of that at some point, hopefully before release. We'll see. Regardless, more video game coverage. We're about to enter a very, very fertile period of gaming. There's a lot of big things in the works, starting like at the end of this month and just pushing on throughout February and March and so on. It's going to be crazy. And I don't know how much coverage I'm going to be able to do of everything, but I'm going to do what I can. So let's talk about the big reveal of the Switch and what I thought about it and go over some of the details and things like that. So, what were my thoughts? Well, to begin with, I've already pre-ordered it. Yep, through Amazon. And I've pre-ordered the new Zelda for Switch. Now, I already had a Wii U, so I could have gotten Zelda through that. But no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it on the Switch. Not sure what else I'm gonna necessarily get at launch, if anything. Money is always an issue for me, and there's not necessarily a whole lot else coming out at launch that I'm super excited for. Well, no, wait, I tell a lie. Super Bomberman R looks really fun. I'm definitely getting Super Bomberman R. But aside from that, I'm not much of a multiplayer person. I don't have a lot of... I have friends, but, limited friends in real life who I could do something with the Switch like. So I doubt 1-2 Switch, but we'll get to that. Then after that, I've already played I Am Setsuna. I don't know if I'll get Mario Kart 8, but anyways, I've pre-ordered it. We'll break down specific games later. So that should give you some idea. Yes, I am excited for the Switch, and yes, I am a self-professed Nintendo fanboy, but at the same time, I consider that being a fanboy means that you're not easier on something you love, you're harder. You hold them to a higher standard. I expect amazing things from Nintendo. I think Nintendo is vital to the video game industry. I think they have pushed innovation more than any other company out there. I don't think you can question that. I don't think any other manufacturer, developer, whatever, any other has done more for the video game industry than Nintendo. I'm not saying there aren't other big deals. I'm not saying there aren't others who have made huge, important contributions. But nobody's made more. Nintendo has continued to push video games forward on a number of levels across the years. And I don't think the industry would be recognizable right now if it wasn't for them. So, yeah, I think Nintendo's a big deal. I think they're important to the continued health of the video game industry. And so I hope the Nintendo Switch will be a success. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I have some concerns. Fortunately, most of those concerns are in areas that Nintendo can and hopefully will course correct. But we'll get to that. Let's focus on the positive at first. Let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. So, they revealed the Switch. They revealed the official launch date will be March 3rd, 2017. They finally detailed the new controller, the Joy-Cons, which are going to be one of the big gimmicks, as if you want to call it that. One of the big unique aspects of the Switch, at least that's what Nintendo's hoping for, and they revealed the price, which here in the US will be $299.99. I gotta admit, I was really hoping they'd do $250. I mean, yes, partially because I'd rather not spend $50 less, but more just on a larger sense. I think $250 hits the sweet spot better than than $299. But I don't think it'll completely kill the Switch. I don't think it's like, oh my god, they've priced this so much it's going to fail. This isn't a PS3 situation here, but I do think they would have been better off with $250. I will say the pricing for the controllers, the Joy-Cons, is a goddamn joke. I mean, yeah, you don't necessarily expect a $20 controller, but they're charging, $50 for one Joy-Con, or $80 for both sides put together, and then $70 for the Pro controller. And if you buy it, and that $80 with the two together doesn't include the little thing that you plug it onto, and yeah, that's not great. That is certainly not ideal pricing, and again, I think that is going to be an area of concern, but I also know that that's something the market can correct if necessary. I think if people complain enough, or sales reflect that this is a real ongoing issue for Nintendo, they have shown in the past they will respond, so we'll see what happens. I don't think it's a great thing. I also don't think that necessarily doing 1-2 Switch as a $50 release is a good idea either. That should be a pack-in game. And if not a pack-in game, it should be like $30, $20. Not because it's not necessarily got enough content. I don't know. I haven't played it. I could actually see 1-2 Switch becoming very popular with like live streamers, or becoming a popular party game. I could see it making that kind of connection. I just think that's the point. This is like your Wii Sports. This is the thing that can help sell the system to the non-gamers, to the more casuals, and I think you want to get that more easily into their hands. But we will see. I wouldn't be surprised if come the holiday season, we get a new bundle that includes the Switch, maybe at the same price, 1-2 Switch. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see that, or a bundle with maybe 1-2 Switch and Super Mario Odyssey. I'm hopeful for something like that. But okay. So, $299 is not the perfect price, but I can live with it. I think the majority of people can live with it. It doesn't seem insanely unreasonable. So, as for the unit itself, we've heard a lot of hands-on reports now, and everybody is saying that, yes, it really does switch between... I'm not making a pun, and if I'm using the word switch, I'm not making a pun, so just stop it. Okay, so, it's, when you switch it between, handheld and TV mode, it really does move that quickly. It takes a couple seconds when you plug it back into the TV, but no more so than like when you switch between HDMI channels, when you switch between different HDMI setups. That's just the nature of the beast. I'm not sure there's any way Nintendo could have gotten around that. And a couple of seconds isn't I don't think, gonna kill it for most people. The actual size of the console, especially once you hook on the controllers, I've seen pictures which show it's about the length of the Wii U tablet controller, with it not being quite as it's about as wide but not quite as long, not quite as long horizontally. So vertically. Off to a good start, Shaun. Anyways, people are saying it feels good. It feels like you would expect from a tablet, and if you're used to holding a tablet, good. We know the battery life, it can be anywhere from about 2.5 to 6 hours. With the depending on the game, different games will have different battery life. With Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild being 3 hours, and again, I've heard complaints about that, and well, you don't tend to get that much. Unlike some systems, you're gonna be able to plug in. It uses an actual USB-C, so you can charge it in that way. There's going to be portable batteries released for it. I don't think, if you get 3 to 6 hours, especially if you could supplement it, no, that sounds about right for a system like this, honestly. Sure, we'd all like longer. I'd love longer. But this isn't necessarily, this is a bit different than, say, your average tablet, and so it has a bit of a different, lifespan. One of the things people have to understand is Nintendo is not Apple. Nintendo is not Microsoft. Nintendo is not Sony. Yes, they're a big deal in terms of the industry, in terms of the shadow they cast. Absolutely. But they're not, they're not even remotely as big as any of those companies I just named. They're just not. They're not. I mean, they are a console manufacturer. They're certainly bigger than your average indie, but they're ultimately, they don't have unlimited resources here, people. And they've tried to make a system that is cost effective for both themselves and for the users, for the players. And so, yes, that may be a compromise they've had to make. And I'm certain we will get third-party other items that will, plug-in batteries and things that will be able to extend it. Since it has a USB-C available for charging, I feel like you can, make that work. So, if you're looking to make it your primary system on the go, I think that, I don't think the battery life is ruinous, is what I would say. Again, there's clearly a bit of a compromise going on, and maybe this is my fanboyism showing, but I feel like that you can make that work. What would have been bad would have been like only an hour or a half hour. That would be ruinous. 2.5 hours, if that's really the lowest it goes, and that's really mostly just for the highest high-end games. Like, if you can get 3 hours about between charges for something like Mario Kart 8 or something like Splatoon 2, I feel like that's a pretty good starting point. And really, I mean, in this day and age, what are you tending to be doing where you're going to be going more than 3 hours without some ability to charge? I don't know. I have a lot of different solutions for that, for both trips and for normal day-to-day activities, but fine. If that's a big killer, well, remember, this isn't just a handheld system. It's still also as much a home console as it is anything, so just play it more at home, I guess. All right. So overall, I don't like that pricing for the accessories, but I like the look of the system, and I like the fact that it's still very Nintendo. The Joy-Cons seem intriguing. People have said that, they talked about the HD Rumble, and those who have gotten some hands-on time of it have said that, yes, you can feel the difference, but it's hard to see yet how people are going to use it game-wise, although there's apparently already a mini-game in the 1-2 Switch title that does make use of that. I suspect HD Rumble, like a lot of these features, will not be used by a lot of developers extensively, but those who do use it, especially hopefully Nintendo, can and will use it to great effect. I can take or leave motion control, but okay, I like the setup for the Switch where you're going to be able to have, independent the motion control with the gyroscope and all that, and by all counts, it's much more responsive than what we've gotten in the past. I definitely think there's potential there, and, as long as you give me options, and so far, the games where I wouldn't want motion control, they're doing that. Like, unlike past other games, you do have the option to downplay the motion thing, and I'm assuming that's going to be true for Mario. And for the games where motion is required, well, yeah, that makes sense, and I think it does give some unique opportunities. Overall, I like the looks of the joypad. Now, I'm not convinced how well it's going to work as, Nintendo's big pitch is that you can use each joypad and split it among two people, and you can play it just as a single controller, but in reality, people are describing it as tinier than a Game Boy Micro. And that's pretty tiny. I mean, in theory, now, they do have the cord, which does make it bigger, which plugs it into the back and makes it larger, but it still sounds like that's not going to be the ideal way to play with an individual Joy-Con. But to be fair, it's really designed for multiplayer gaming, and it's designed for something where you're just bringing it over, and you don't want to have to get a lot of controllers, so you give it to somebody, and you're probably playing it for games where you're playing it, 10, 15-minute batches at a time or whatever. And in that context, I can see it working. I think it's a good option to have. I'm not sure how many people will use it extensively, but I would rather always have more options for something like this than less. So, sure, we'll see how well it works in practice, but I can't fault for Nintendo for trying it. So, that's the hardware itself. Like I said, I've ordered the system. I'm probably going to get a second controller in the Pro. I know it's $70, but I want to be able to have, a different option. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing beyond. I mean, like I said, I have pre-ordered right now the system, and I have pre-ordered Zelda, and I finally broke down and pre-ordered my first amiibo. I'm getting the Zelda Breath of Wind amiibo, as in, of Zelda. The Princess Zelda. Not, yeah, this is why it's annoying to name the game. Anyways, because I love her design. I love her design so much. We'll come back to that, but and especially now with Disney Infinity sadly gone, I don't have any, I don't have anything else, similar gaming-wise. And I still have all this empty shelf space I set up for my Disney Infinity figures, which, all the ones I have, and I have almost all of them, are up there right now, and they're going to remain there because I love them. I love the look of them, the feel of them. I just like being able to, stare at them. But there's still empty space, because I thought we were going to get a lot more Disney Infinity. Damn you, Disney! Rant for another time, rant for another time, rant for another time. So I guess I got some room for some amiibos, and man, that Zelda amiibo looks good. I don't even know what it's going to do in-game. I don't care. I just like the look of it. It's the first amiibo I've ever bought, so don't give me too much grief here, people. Okay? Anyways, that's the Switch itself. I think I've heard I've heard from both reading things and talking to some friends I have on the inside, as it were, who have gotten hands-on time with it. I do believe that there are developers who are potentially very excited for it. We're going to have to see how things go, because I feel like we were in a similar place, in theory, with the Wii U, though, we all know how that all fell apart, though. Already, I see some signs that are more positive than it was with the Wii U, but okay. So, the system itself looks like it's got definite potential. I understand it's not as powerful as the PS4 or Xbox One, and it never was going to be, people. It's powerful enough. It can do HD gaming. Like, for instance, the upcoming, and we're about to get into the games, the upcoming Mario Kart re-release will be 1080p, 60 frames per second, locked in. So, they'll be able to do good-looking games still. Power alone isn't everything. And this is a system that's meant to kind of bridge the gap between home and game and portable. So I think that's also something worth keeping in mind as well for potential titles. But I think what we have here is something with a lot of potential. But then again, I thought the same thing about the Wii U. And to be fair, in the last year, I've gotten a lot of use out of my Wii U. I played the hell out of Tokyo Mirage. I bought a bunch of Virtual Console games. Some I never played before. I bought Steam World Heist on Wii U, just because being able to play off screen while watching TV was really convenient to me, and I liked having it on there. And I'm gonna miss that function. I am gonna really miss that, because that is not gonna be included in the Switch, and I'm gonna miss that. But all right, we're about 17 minutes in, so let's get down to the games themselves. Now, I've heard people complain this is a ridiculously weak launch library, and I'm like, but is it really? Comparative to what? Go back and look at the actual history of launch libraries for game systems. Now, theoretically, they may have had a few more, and one thing Nintendo has not talked about, and we don't know entirely there's still details that we need to get out, and that is a little concerning. But, how is this going to work in terms of digital releases? What's going on with the Virtual Console? What's going on with the indies that are already available, for instance, on the Wii U? Because they could, in theory, just re-release all those, right, to the Switch pretty easily. Now, Switch is using a completely different format. It's using cartridges instead of, discs. So clearly it's not going to be, it's unlikely. I guess they could release a peripheral that makes it backward. No. There's no way to make the Switch backward compatible really with the Wii U, because I'm forgetting the Wii U gamepad, and there's just no way to do it. Not easily. You're going to have to do, you're going to have to make some changes. That's why in some ways something like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe doesn't bother me as it might in some cases. But regardless, we don't know entirely what the full launch library is going to be. There could be a whole host of indies, and it's, the Wii U didn't get enough people didn't buy it. So there's a host of Wii U titles that could be re-released that could, bolster the Switch's library. But at launch, a lot of systems tend to not have very many good games, or very many games, period. And already the Switch is launching with Zelda Breath of Wind and 1-2 Switch. And between those two alone, you've got a strong single-player game, and then you've got a strong party game, and then you've got, a couple of stalwarts and Just Dance and Skylanders Imaginators. Those are not games I personally care about, but, casuals, and so there at least is something there. And then you've got Super Bomberman R, which, I love the Bomberman series, and the fact that it's coming back and from Konami of all people. Miracles of miracles. Jesus. But, I think, actually, that's not a terrible launch library. And more importantly, there's more games coming, in theory at least. We've got, Snipper Clips, Fast, FMX, I Am Setsuna, and Has Been Heroes, which are all going to seem like, digital releases in March. Then in April 28th, we've got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Then in spring, we've been promised ARMS, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Rhyme, and Disgaea 5. In summer 2017, Splatoon 2. Fall 2017, Skyrim. Then holiday 2017, the big one, Super Mario Odyssey, and in sometime in 2017, these did not have specific times yet, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Ultra Street Fighter 2, Minecraft, Sonic Mania, FIFA, Dragon Ball, Xenoverse 2, Steep, and NBA 2K18. So if all those games actually do come out by the end of 2017, and I acknowledge there's a good chance some of them might not, there's no, it's not beyond reason to think that Super Mario Odyssey could get delayed or Splatoon 2 could get delayed. I think Nintendo's probably damn well committed to not letting it happen, but I would always rather a game be delayed than sacrifice quality. You can only make a first impression the first time. But let's assume all those announced games do come out, and they come out when they're supposed to come out. Then by the holiday season, which is the key buying time, the Switch should have a better than average launch library. They'll have Splatoon 2, which even if it's just more Splatoon, I know that people are saying like the multiplayer feels very same. What could be the key, and what I'm taking away from the trailer we saw, is that maybe we're going to get a more robust, more in-depth campaign mode, where the campaign, like the single player mode in Splatoon felt kind of tacked on. It wasn't terrible, but it certainly wasn't up to the full, it was no, Mario or Zelda kind of level. This might, I wonder if they're going to do something more story-driven, more actually giving you an open world to explore. There's certain little shots in that trailer that makes me wonder. It could just be more, or it could just be, very much more the same with just some additions. But Splatoon was a really good game. It represented something interesting from Nintendo. And having, even if it's more of a, even if it's not, even if it's Splatoon 2 in the way that the, Super Mario Brothers 2, the actual Japanese one, the Lost levels, was just more of the same. Splatoon was really good, so that's, at this stage, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If that's the case for Splatoon 2, and then next year we get it again with Splatoon 3, well, then I might start to have some issues, although I would also say it certainly hasn't hurt Call of Duty or, lots of other games is necessarily bottom line. We'll see. I think getting a Splatoon title onto the Switch is the right call, and if you've got to make one that doesn't necessarily feel a million miles away from the first one, and that's the sacrifice to get it on there so that it's there for the holiday season, I think that's a worthwhile compromise to make. Overall, I think a lot of people they tend to forget that, like, the best launch title for PS3 was what? What was that? I think it was, God, I can't remember what it's called anymore. Resistance, that's it, Resistance, which was a better than average shooter, but still, come on. And then you had things like Ridge Racer 7 and Tiger Woods, or let's see, what was PS2's launch titles, eh? PS2's launch titles included Battle Arena Toshinden, the Raiden Project, Rayman, which was a good game, but still, go and actually look at launch titles for a lot of systems. Generally, Nintendo has the better launch, even if it's just via one game. Shall we remember? Let's see, what was the PS4's launch titles, eh? PS4's launch titles, okay. Knack. Still can't believe we're getting a Knack 2, but come on, Knack. Killzone Shadowfall, which, aka, Lego Marvel Superheroes. Drive Club. Oh, yeah, that turned out good. I remember that launch game. Assassin's Creed 4. It's not like there wasn't anything particularly memorable that really, I think, came out first-party wise much in the way for the PS4. So think that's the thing. A lot of it was re-releases or third-party games we'd already seen, and that's because the best first-party in the industry. There's no question. There's no question. We can argue a lot of things about video games, but if you're going to tell me that Nintendo isn't the best first-party in the industry, I'm just going to look at you weird. I really am. I'm not even going to bother debating with you because you're so divorced from reality. You're at Donald Trump levels divorced from reality. Oh, yeah, I went there. So, anyways, I actually think this isn't a bad launch library taken as a whole. We will see all of what actually comes out, but I'm very excited for a lot of the original game. Zelda looks great. New Bomberman looks great. ARMS looks like it could be interesting, even if it's not necessarily for me. What I take away from ARMS is Nintendo is paying attention. I take that as a good, even if the game itself is only so-so, they're clearly trying to capture more of that Splatoon spirit without just outright copying Splatoon. There's definitely somebody, and that's good. I want to see a Nintendo that is learning lessons, because there's too many signs already that they're still struggling with that. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the negatives in a minute. Super Mario Odyssey looks great. I know there's some awkward, people are complaining about the graphic quality and all that, and guys, it's coming out in the holidays. It's January. This is coming out almost a year from now, potentially. This could come out in December. That's a long time to go in terms of a game. What we are seeing is clearly not finished. This is not footage from a game that's about to come out next month. Okay, so let's dial back a bit on all that. I think Mario Odyssey. I really like the hook. I like the setup. I'm excited as hell for it. I love the Mario games in general, and I know, I wish Peach wasn't being kidnapped again, but that is what it is. At this point, that's just slamming your head against a brick wall, and I'm pretty sure that if you keep slamming your head against the wall, it's the head that's going to break first, not the wall. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, God, I really hope that does come out this year. I love the original Xenoblade Chronicles. I thought X had some interesting ideas, but kind of lost the thread, and it was almost too ambitious for its own good. This looks like a more focused, more in line with what made the first Xenoblade so great, still keeping that scope, but hopefully with a better focus and story. And they say 2017, whether that's Japan or US remains to be seen. I hope it comes out this year, and that's not even talking about the titles which are already in the works. Like, I'm really excited for that Square Enix game that looks like the throwback Octo something or another, because again, you can do games that might look good as handheld games, because why not? This is a handheld system as much as it is a TV system. And so I think Switch will be very indie-friendly. And Nintendo has shown an increasing willingness to do that with indie gaming. You've seen a lot of indie games come out on the Wii U, for example, and I think that's going to continue. I think Nintendo knows that's something they need to continue to cultivate. So that's all good. Now, what is the big problems with the Switch, potentially? I mentioned earlier the cost of the accessories. That's ridiculous. I know space could be an issue, although at least they're not making the Vita mistake. You can use any kind of, SD card and 256 gigs, and they'll probably still get bigger ones of those. I don't think it's going to be that much of a killer. I'm really, 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 really wary about this online thing they're pushing. Now, We do know now that they're not bringing back the Miiverse, which means Miiverse is almost certainly dead, and they're not doing Street Pass either with this. And I honestly, as much as some people are complaining, I get why. Because part of what they're doing with the Switch is they're just going to allow, they're going to have their own app that'll work on smart devices, and they're going to let you use, various, the existing social media stuff. So, I mean, Miiverse really just existed because Nintendo at the time wouldn't get on board with doing, they were still very control heavy, and they still are too much, but they wanted things completely under control, and so it made sense in that way even, but it was always something of a, well, I guess we'll go along with this because we don't have a choice kind of way. And if this means instead we can just cut out the Nintendo middleman, I think that's okay, and I get why they're getting rid of Miiverse. Street Pass, again, this is meant to be a sort of a handheld system, but we still don't know exactly where they're going with the 3DS, if they are going to do another, there are elements of the 3DS, like the two screens, that may not, I don't know. I honestly don't know if Nintendo knows where they're going from here in terms. Is the Switch just going to take over for both the handheld and home markets, with maybe supplementing what used to be handheld with, mobile gaming? I could see that, but I could still see Nintendo a couple years from now doing some sort of new dual screen iteration that's its hook still. We'll see. Regardless, there's nothing saying that they can't do a Street Pass function later on. But they are doing some online thing, and they're going to use the mobile app. Basically, they're going to release an app, and you'll be able to use your mobile devices to be able to do chat via them, which, okay, that's potentially concerning in terms of connection issues, but also you're going to have to pay for the service. Now, you're not going to have to start paying until fall. When they launch the system, it's going to be free. But still, if you want me to pay, I don't do very much social gaming stuff. I don't really play multiplayer games. I don't do a lot with, with friends list or things like that. It's not my thing. I've tried a couple of times and gotten burned pretty badly for various reasons. And generally, yeah, so if I honestly don't know if I'm going to end up wanting to pay for this. Now, something they could do is, one of the reasons I stick with PlayStation Plus is because I do get those games, even if they are starting to at times, have to keep just re-releasing the same game over several months because they don't have enough titles. But Vita, I'm looking at you. But unfortunately, so Nintendo has said they're going to do NES and SNES games. You'll get one free a month, which is just NES or SNES, okay, and you're not going to get to keep them past the month. There's no other words for it. That's stupid. That's moronic. That's not giving us a game, that's giving us a demo, I guess, basically. That's basically, so you let's say you get Earthbound. I mean, especially these days, those are sort of busy, so we get to play Earthbound for a month, and then what happens to our saves when it goes away? Or do we have to rebuy it to access it? No matter how you look at it, if you're going to give out a game, do what Sony and Microsoft are doing. You have to keep the subscription to access the games. That's fine. That's fair, but then just saying the game goes away at the end of the month is idiotic. That's just really, really stupid. And I hope you're seeing, I may be a Nintendo fanboy, but I'm not just going to let them get away with anything. I don't understand the point of that. I see it as counterintuitive. I see it as actually just pissing people off. It makes your service less valuable, and you've already got questionable issues with that. Now, look, if you're somebody who's going to play a lot of Splatoon or Mario Kart Online, clearly you're going to need to go for this service. And, but it's one more expense, and if there's not enough value in this, it could be something that drives away the hardcore, because they're like, well, what's the point if I'm going to have to pay this, unreasonable price for a service that otherwise isn't any good? Now, like I said, I think this could be a major issue, but thankfully, this is also something that Nintendo can still course correct, and it's something they can change even once the system is out. It's something they can experiment with. I don't think it's necessarily a system killer, and we need to see how this all works out. And I hope that they are listening to people and they will react accordingly, because I do think there's definitely room for improvement there. Overall, I remain very excited for the Switch. Obviously, I pre-ordered it, but I do have to admit, I'm still a bit perplexed by releasing it this way. I don't think it has a terrible launch library, like some people are saying. But if you don't have Splatoon 2 or even Mario Kart 8 ready yet on launch date, why are you launching on March 3rd? Why not wait until May, and then you can do both Mario Kart 8 along with it? Why not wait until summer when you could do Splatoon 2? I can't escape the feeling. There still feels like there's a lot we don't know, and it's coming out March 3rd. That's about a month and a half. I don't know. I'm excited for the Switch, and partially that's because I have to be, because I love Nintendo. I guess you could put it that way. But I'm also just legitimately excited because there's games coming up. There's games they've teased. There's a new Shin Megami Tensei. I'm a big fan of the Dynasty Warriors Heroes games, and I'm certainly up for a Fire Emblem take on that. I'm looking forward to things like Puyo Puyo Tetris, even if that could be played on other systems. What I'm saying is, I certainly think the Switch has the potential. I just hope that this approach Nintendo's taking doesn't undercut that potential, and we basically get another Wii U, which was a great system that sadly never connected with audiences in the way it should have, and never was able to, truly live up to its potential. Now, I think the Switch has a stronger set of hooks than the Wii U to differentiate it from what came before. I think the name alone and the fact the distance between the release of the Wii and the Switch is much greater, so people won't just think it's like some sort of weird update for the Wii. This will feel like a distinct system with a series of unique elements that can definitely make it its own. I think there's a lot of potential here. You can already start to see, you look at the system, you look at what the details, and you can already start to, the old brain starts percolating, you start wondering, and Nintendo is launching, if everything goes well this year, they'll release a new Zelda game for the Switch. And yes, it's also coming to Wii U, but if you don't already own a Wii U at this point, are you really going to buy the Wii U just for his Breath of Wind? I mean, there's a number of really great games on the Wii U. And, I'd absolutely say if you never owned it and you wanted to, sure. But if you haven't up until now, you're probably better off just getting the Switch. But anyways, you've got a Zelda, you've got a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I know it's just a re-release, but it's a re-release with a completely redone battle mode, with the battle mode done right this time, and that's no small thing. And a number of other new elements and new characters and new tracks. You've got ARMS, which could be something. You've got Splatoon 2, which definitely will be something. You've got, hopefully, Mario Odyssey, and it's Mario. It's the new Mario. It's the new mainstream Mario game. And God, you might even get Xenoblade Chronicles 2 this year, maybe in North America. I mean, that alone, that's a strong overall mix. We'll see. I certainly am not writing off the Switch. I don't understand people who already are. I definitely think Nintendo's got ideas. I think they've got directions. I just hope they're listening. And also, Nintendo cut out with shutting people's things down. It's so stupid. Their whole reaction to YouTube videos and all that remains very backwards, even even by the standards of video games and movies and TVs, which are way too strict with that already. They're just ridiculous. It's mainly Nintendo of Japan that does it. You can see that. And they really need to get over it, especially since they're talking about, taking photos and they're talking about eventually streaming video. You've got to get over it. And especially with this isn't even people, like, you might make some sort of argument that, well, they're playing our game and if we let them do this, then nobody's going to want to buy the game. Now, I think that's nonsense. If watching somebody do a Let's Play of a game prevents you from buying the game, you were probably never serious about buying the game in the first place. I'm not going to say never. I mean... Okay, I just did say never, but you know what I mean. I know there are exceptions out there. I've had a few myself, but generally that's in the case of games I was on the fence with anyways. And I know plenty of games, both personally and anecdotally, which have Let's Plays that have inspired people to run out and buy games because they've seen it. Look at something like Undertale. Word of mouth is a big deal, and Nintendo, you've still got people very edgy. And, there's still a lot of people who feel very edgy about you. I love you. But I know plenty of people who don't have that same love for you in the same way I do. So, especially with something like this, this is all the hype machine. This is just hyping it up. Why are you not letting them use the footage? Oh, it's not the especially, let it, if they make some money off of using that footage, how does that hurt you? It helps everybody. It doesn't, more than anything, this is something Nintendo really, just the internet in general continues to be one of Nintendo's biggest weaknesses, and it's something somebody needs to go over to Japan and kick those people in the butt and slap the back of their heads until they friggin' wake up, because I agree completely that the way they do things like that is dumb. It's counterproductive, and it just hurts their bottom line. But that aside, yes, I continue to remain very excited for the Switch. I have no regrets pre-ordering it. I'm excited to get my hands on the new Zelda. I'm excited to see where the system goes. I don't know how much I'll actually end up using it over 2017. It's quite possible I'll get Zelda, I'll get Bomberman R, I'll beat all those, and then over the summer, because I don't know if I'm going to get Splatoon 2, I didn't get Splatoon 1, it's quite possible over the summer I won't touch it, or I might not, but I wouldn't necessarily consider that a failure. It's just, different gaming. There's a lot of stuff coming out. Hell, there are times when I get caught up in, I'll be playing a PC game, and there's, one coming up I'm very excited for, Tides of Nomura. And that may drain some of my time away from consoles. Or, I've been playing a lot of Wii U, but now that I've got this review code for Yakuza 0, I haven't really touched my Wii U or 3DS in a while because I've been doing a lot on the PS4. And so, with me, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, is what I'm saying. I suspect, I'm hopeful that by the end of 2017, I'm going to look back and go, shake my head up and down and go, yeah, I'm glad I bought the Switch. Okay, a quick addendum to what I was just talking about. In between recording my initial thoughts and editing said thoughts, I read a very interesting hands-on take from Ars Techna from Kyle Orland, and he basically described the Nintendo Switch, jack of all trades, master of some. It's a good piece. You should go read it. It does feel very divested of any hype, very trying to be as, objective and sober as you can be. And he talks about basically how, his impression, and talking to other people, some other people's impressions is that with the Switch, Nintendo has maybe their best handheld ever, something that's leaps and bounds better than, say, the 3DS in terms of power and screen quality. That's something that's also, even outshines the Vita, which does have a gorgeous screen, but yeah. And it's something that outshines most mobile gaming as well, since it has the controllers and has that whole element with the Joy-Con. But that the worry is that the Switch is behind significantly as a home console. That, yes, power isn't everything, but it is something, and that there are some concerns with the architecture it uses that may make it harder to transfer third-party games. And that's always been the issue that Nintendo home consoles have been facing for a while, and that this could be an issue for the Switch. And it's some good points. He definitely raises some good points. He also really doesn't think that the Joy-Cons work at all when you separate them individually and hold them as single controllers, that's just not an effective method, that it's painful and difficult to use, but that when you're using them as an actual controller, they work fine. And that when you hold them like two Wiimotes, they're more responsive. So, yeah, it was a good piece, and it definitely cut through a bit of my own hype. I still remain very excited for the Switch. That hasn't changed. But I do think he raises some interesting points, and it is an issue potentially of concern. I don't know. I will say that if, he's asking, is Nintendo seeding the living room? And I guess what I would say to that is that in some ways they did quite a while ago, and they're not, they can't really win the living room battle. They've never been able to for quite some time. That's the point. And I'm not really sure that if Nintendo had tried to spend the money to do a more powerful system, I think it would have had a harder time with being portable. And I still don't think they could have really ever competed head-on with Sony and Microsoft. I just think they have more money to burn, and they can take more losses than Nintendo can, so they can use the more powerful hardware. I don't know, maybe that's my own, bias for Nintendo shining through. But I do think it's a good piece, and I think it raises an interesting issue that's worth bringing up in discussion. And I will say, though, that basically, I think Sony's done in the handheld market. If we ever get a successor to the Vita, I'll be shocked. Maybe, God knows where we'll be. Maybe, maybe in 5 more years, assuming, we're not all dead in the nuclear holocaust. Maybe it would have to be some sort of period of time like that, and something to really rethink it, I think, for Sony to get back into it. Because, yeah, the Vita's done much better in Japan, but it hasn't done better anybody else. And it's, it's not, I can't see Sony at this time focusing their resources there because they have other issues. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. Now, that means that the big competitor for Nintendo on the handheld front is in terms of, mobile gaming. But I really do think that strictly as a gaming device, I think the Switch outpaces any mobile device that's on the market right now. And yes, mobile devices can do a lot more than gaming. It's not like I think the Switch is going to kill the iPad or the iPhone or whatever, but this is something for in the dedicated gaming space, and so maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. Something that is, the best handheld gaming machine we've ever seen, but also can then do TV things as well. And I do think that could keep the system going, even if that becomes a problem in terms of porting over the PS4, Xbox One titles. Maybe that still just at least gives Nintendo some original titles that would be for handheld. I don't know. I'm trying to put a good face on it. I won't deny that. I'm trying to put a good spin on it. And as he even says, it's not like the Switch is a complete failure. And he even, he ends the piece by basically saying, the more I think about it, the more I think Nintendo should have released a cheaper portable-only edition of the Switch. Doing so would reduce the $299 asking price and highlight the system's biggest strengths. But doing so would also essentially concede an essential truth that Nintendo has made a great portable console that just happens to connect to your TV rather than a great TV console that happens to be portable. If Nintendo could focus on the Switch's strengths and somehow bulk up a threadbare software library, they could still end up being an interesting part of the console market. So, I don't know. I don't know if his and our opinion are quite that far apart. I just think maybe I'm putting a more positive spin on it because that's just the way I tend to feel about Nintendo in general. I think he raises some good points. It's definitely, like I said, Ars Techna. It's his take on the Wii from Kyle Orland. It's definitely worth reading. It's a good hands-on, summation of the Switch. It points out, certainly from a hardware point of view, he's also more down on the software than I am. It's true that other systems have launched with a lot more software in the past, but I think a lot of the quality of that software was iffy, and a lot of it was just third-party, or it was just rehashed stuff. So, how many were actually original quality titles? How long did it take for some of these systems to actually get a really good first-party or exclusive title to call their own? I'm not as down on that, especially because they're launching in March, and the real big push will come in the holiday. But we'll see. And I admit, I am a self-professed Nintendo fanboy, whatever you want to call me, so I am going to naturally look towards it as a positive. But regardless, it's a good point, and we'll see. But, even if the Switch only can be a dominant handheld, that might be enough to keep Nintendo going. Who knows? We're in an interesting time in the market, and I look forward to see where this all progresses. So, that's my take on it. You please share yours in the comment section below. What do you think of everything Switch-related, anything Switch-related? Just drop me a line and tell me what you think. And please stay tuned for more stuff coming the rest of this month. There's certainly more viewer request month in the work. There's the review of Yakuza 0. There's a review of the One Piece film Gold. So lots of stuff going on here at Unrepentant Geeking headquarters. So please head on over to unrepentantgeeking.com to keep up with what's going on. Check out all my older stuff if you want to see more from me. And you can go over to patreon.com/unrepentantgeeking for, throwing a few bucks my way, helping me keep the lights on around here. That's very important. Terrible things live in the dark. We need the light. So, a few bucks, or if barring that, just tell people, get people to watch the show, support, tweet it, Facebook it, whatever's the latest social thingy. Anyways, do that and just get the word out. I would appreciate any support you can give the show. So, then, until next time for Channel Awesome and Unrepentant Geeking, I'm Shaun Cronenfeld, wishing you all long days and pleasant nights. And happy gaming, one and all.